Hello, and welcome to the deep dive from Westferry Times. We're diving straight in today because, well, there's been a pretty major development shaking up global trade.
Yes, a big one. This 90-day trade truce agreed between the U.S. and China.
Exactly. And we're already seeing the effects, aren't we? A real buzz in the markets. The FTSE 100 here in London has reacted.
Oh, absolutely. A noticeable jump. Along with other global indices, it's definitely caught everyone's attention.
So, our mission today, for you listening, is to really unpack this. What is this truce? Why now? How's it hitting the UK, especially the FTSE? And, well, what happens next?
And we'll be drawing on reporting from, the usual key sources, Reuters, The Times, The Guardian, AP News, Share Talk. They've all been covering this extensively.
And to help make sense of it all, we're really pleased to have a senior economist from the London School of Economics with us. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's certainly a timely topic.
It really is. Okay, let's get into it. This truce announced May 12th. What's the actual agreement?
Well, the core of it is a 90-day pause, a suspension of planned tariff increases. It's designed to give them space, basically.
Space for negotiation.
Exactly, to sit down and talk without the immediate threat of things escalating further.
And it wasn't just stopping new tariffs, right? I heard there were actual reductions.
That's right, and quite significant ones. The U.S. has cut tariffs on some specific Chinese goods from, get this, 145% down to 30%.
Wow, 145 down to 30. That's
Yeah.
huge.
It is. And China's done something similar, reducing tariffs on certain U.S. goods from 125% down to 10%.
Okay, so real movement there. Now, context is important. This came after some pretty sharp tariff hikes earlier, didn't it? Under the previous administration.
Yes, initiated back in April by former President Trump. Those had multiple aims, trade imbalances, but also specifically trying to curb fentanyl exports coming out of China. That was part of the rationale.
Right. So this truce signals maybe a different approach, for now at least. What did the U.S. and China actually say about why they agreed to this?
Both sides emphasized the, let's say, constructive talks they had in Geneva. They talked about a shared goal, avoiding economic decoupling.
Decoupling, basically untangling their economies.
Precisely. Reducing trade ties, investment, supply chains. They said they want to avoid that and work towards, a more balanced trade relationship. That was the official messaging.
Okay. And the markets heard that message loud and clear, it seems. What was the immediate global reaction?
Oh, immediate and very positive. You saw investors breathing a sigh of relief, essentially. The big U.S. indices jumped. The S&P 500 was up 3.3%. The Dow Jones up 2.8%.
And the NASDAQ did even better.
It did, yeah, up 4.3%. So quite a strong signal of optimism that maybe the worst of the tensions might ease off.
Okay, let's bring that home now. The FTSE 100 here in the UK. How did it react?
It definitely caught the positive wave. The FTSE climbed to its highest point in about a month.
And the percentage gain.
It was up 0.6% right after the news broke, so clearly buoyed by that improved global outlook.
0.6%. And were there specific parts of the index leading that charge?
Yes, very clearly. Industrial metal miners, they had a really strong day.
Ah, the miners. Makes sense, given China's role. How much were they up?
As a sector, up 4.9%, a really significant jump compared to the overall index.
4.9%. Any particular companies standing out?
Yes, the big names, Glencore, Anglo American, their share prices saw noticeable increases. It really shows that direct link.
Right, because if China's economy is perceived to be doing better, or at least facing fewer headwinds from trade tariffs.
Exactly. The expectation is increased demand for industrial metals for raw materials. China's such a huge consumer, so any sign of smoother trade boosts confidence for those mining companies. Their stocks reflect that anticipated demand.
Okay, so that's the immediate market impact. Let's zoom out a bit. What does this truce mean for the wider UK economy?
Well, on a broader level, it's helpful. It eases some of those, worst-case fears about a complete global trade freeze-up. It creates a slightly more stable environment for international trade, which the UK relies on.
So good news for businesses here. Exporters, maybe.
Potentially, yes. It improves the outlook for exporters, and it reduces some uncertainty for any company that depends on global supply chains. Less volatility is generally welcome.
And it feels like there's always a but. With this, it is only 90 days.
That's the crucial point. This isn't a final deal. It's a pause. The long-term benefit really hinges on whether these negotiations over the next 3 months actually lead somewhere sustainable.
And if they don't, what are the risks still lurking for the UK?
The risk is that we just snap back. If the talks fail, we could see those tariffs ramp up again, maybe even higher. Renewed U.S.-China tension means more global market volatility, more uncertainty, and that inevitably impacts the UK.
So a dose of optimism tempered with caution then.
I think that's exactly the right way to look at it. Be
Mm.
encouraged by the pause, but stay very watchful about what happens during these negotiations.
Okay, let's look into that crystal ball, or maybe just the next few months. What's the best case scenario coming out of this 90-day window?
The best case, they actually hammer out a more lasting agreement, something that resolves some of the core disputes. That would really boost market confidence long term, support global growth, and obviously benefit the UK economy too.
And the worst case?
The worst case is the talks collapse completely. We see tariffs escalate again, perhaps retaliation. That likely means more market turbulence, potentially hurting global growth prospects.
So these next 90 days are genuinely critical, aren't they?
Absolutely pivotal. It's a window, a chance to de-escalate properly, but the outcome is far from certain.
So for businesses listening right now and trying to plan, what's the practical advice?
Look, the advice hasn't fundamentally changed, really. Diversification. Keep working on diversifying your supply chains. Don't be overly reliant on one specific market or route. It builds resilience against these kinds of shocks.
Makes sense. And for investors, people watching their pensions or ISAs.
Again, sound principles apply. Maintain a balanced portfolio. Don't make knee-jerk reactions based on headlines. But definitely stay informed. Geopolitical events, trade policy, these things are clearly moving markets right now, so keeping abreast is key.
Okay, so wrapping this up then. The big picture seems to be this U.S.-China truce has given markets, including the FTSE 100, a welcome shot in the arm, but it's temporary.
Exactly. It's a pause, a potential step forward, but the real test is what happens over these next 90 days. The long-term impact hangs in the balance.
So staying informed is crucial.
Absolutely.
And maybe a final thought for you, our listeners, to take away and mull over. If this truce does lead to a more lasting, stable trade deal between the U.S. and China, which specific UK industries do you think stand to benefit the most? Something to consider.
That's a great question. It's been good discussing this today.
Thank you so much for your insights. It's been incredibly helpful. And thank you all for tuning into the deep dive from Westferry Times. Goodbye for now.